But Akon, as an immigrant or as somebody from somewhere else, even though one world, one Africa, all of that, his opinion is still going to be vastly different from what they would consider foundational Black Americans. So let's listen to this interview real quick.
How do Senegalese really feel about slavery and what happened? Because there were a lot of very foul people involved in the slave trade. There was, of course, Europeans, Jews and whites were involved, but Africans were involved in it as well. They were selling off their enemies, the enemy tribes, and making their money and so forth. Like, how is slavery really looked at out there?
Well, in Senegal, we've kind of overcome the thought of slavery. We don't even think about it. The only time we think about it, honestly, is when we're doing tours at Good Island. Outside of that, people have lived and moved and way beyond the slavery concept and idea in mind state.
Right, because in Senegal, you actually know your history. You can trace your family back 100 generations, whatever else. You still have your names, your real names. You're not named Johnson,
and Jackson,
and Washington, and all the other slave owners that were the presidents who had slaves during that time, Jefferson, and so forth. Yeah, but you guys actually have your history. And that was the whole thing of walking around Senegal. People just felt, it was the first time I felt Black people just felt comfortable and with no type of disease.
I think it's also the art of just letting the past go and moving towards the future. And I think in the U.S., they have this stigma of just not letting go of the past and blaming the past on every mishap or, disappointment. And I think as long as you hold on to that past, it's just a lot of weight that you carry with you everywhere you go. And it's hard to move forward and move fast when you got to, weight on your back.
All right. So now you watched it, right? So I know you. I'll give you a quick refresher on where I stopped it. I stopped it after he said Americans have a hard time letting go of the past. Now I know that wasn't the end, but there were two key things. So first of all, what side are you on? Do you agree with what he said?
Well, I disagree with Akon, and similar to how you set it up as far as he is from Africa, the homeland, the motherland. He's from the mainland. So his perspective, even though he's lived over here for a long time, like he's not like 5-10 years in. He got probably more than 20 years in. That's lowball. Mm-hmm. He's been here for a long time. So he does know what it's like to be African in America, but he doesn't know what it feels like to have the generational racism that's been passed on. His DNA is different from our DNA because what happened, the impressions that were made in our ancestors traveled through the coding of the DNA and the generations that became before us, which now lives in us. His coding is totally different. His parents were born in Africa, grandparents and generations before that. So his coding is totally different. So his perspective is not even relative as far as I'm concerned here. So that's just me.
All right. So we've been doing this for many, many years. We disagree a lot. Now it's not one of those times. He is completely wrong and off base. And I'm going to tell you why. He actually let himself off the hook. Like he gave the reason early. The reason in Senegal, from his perspective, they are the way they are, is because they can trace their history.
Yes.
You know the
Black gave him that. Black gave him that. He didn't even say that.
Well, I mean, he was.
Black,
you're right. He did. You're right. He agreed to that. That's the reason. You know your story. That's mostly the reason. We're still you can
trace it back.
You can trace it, and there was some amount of rectifying resolution, some amount, whereas the people in Senegal are in charge. So you
have been and still are.
Yeah. So culturally, it's still intact. Slavery was a blight, but it's not here. The ruling class are descendants of the oppressors, with a system of built-in oppression that little has changed under. And most of us cannot trace back multi generations to our points of origin. So you can't. It's like any other trauma. You can't get closure unless you deal with it. And if we've never done with it, it ain't gonna be closure. Of course, you can't let go of the past. Mr. Clarkson, our EP, said some wonderful words right here. I don't even have to say much else. He summed it up very succinctly. He says, Akon makes American money because of the civil rights movement. He is here to drink the wine, but he doesn't understand that there were people who died crushing the grapes.
Well, I think he
That's
does
heavy.
understand it. It is heavy, but I think he understands it. I think
Can't relate to it, like you said. He can't relate to it.
It's not as heavy for him.
Yeah, he can't relate to it.
For him.
Yeah,
it's not. And then not only did he was able to make the wine, right? He also was able to get the loans for the success that he had in America. The loans that he got from China to build up the city that he's promoting. When he brought all the solar and the technology to the city that will be the Akon city, he got that loan from China. Why did you get that loan? Because of the success that you were able to get in America, and then they know that if they can, who you are in Africa and America, and if they give you a loan, they know not only will you make that money back to them, but then they're also setting up this money for another time. I ain't gonna say no.
Yeah, I was disappointed in that perspective, and I know he's not the only one that feels that way. But I'm gonna tell you, I go back. It's very basic. I go back to basics. It's tit for tat with me. I'm petty that way sometimes. Not about all things, but I'm not. You first. You first. When you forget about that period of 1941 through 45, then I'll let it go. If you can't let it go, don't ask me to let it go. You can't compare Holocaust, but don't ask me to dismiss mine if you won't dismiss yours.
Well, you know, and this is another point too.
And you know who I'm talking about.
And he said last year, well, look, a lot of people got taken care of. A lot of groups.
Oh, yes.
You know, he said
Native Americans, Japanese Americans, Jewish Americans. Yeah.
I didn't even know
Italian Americans. Yeah.
I didn't even know they got it. And then you know, I think Akon said, well, you know, and Jewish people got it, and they didn't go through what they went through here, and they still got it.
You're right. That should tell you something.
That was common. I've heard that before. But regardless, I'm not mad at them for getting it. I'm just mad that we not mad that we ain't got it.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at nobody for getting it, because all of them deserved it, but so do we.
Yes.
And I hope our voters, I hope our people don't think, just like I hope they didn't think before, that just because somebody brown that's going to sit in that building don't mean that you're going to get it.
It don't mean that you're automatically going to get it. I said today on Twitter, all these people with these agendas and ADOS, it's not going to work unless we taking meetings in their office every day. They should see a different group of 100 people every day banging down their door, demanding talks at the table. That has to be ongoing every day, because them other peoples did it and they got what they demanded. They ain't ask. They demanded.
But we don't know how to do it.
We don't know how to do it. We're learning. We're going to learn.
We don't know how to do it.
It's going to be it's a quick learning curve.
Reparations come to those who make sure that the powers that be know that there needs to be a repair. If it's not a repair, it's going to be a problem.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Big Zo Talks. He's currently in studio producing WAVP, which is the WAP remix that the vice president is going to jump on.
Don't do that. Don't put me out there like that.